Welcome, everyone. Today is Apex 22.2 sneak preview continued. This is Apex office hours, and I am Jason Haynes, Principal Product Manager for Oracle Apex, and I'm coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. We got some housekeeping slides to go through here to let everyone know what's going on. Apex 22.2 is in pre-release on apex.oracle.com. So if you want to check out what's coming, in addition to learning more about all the different features today in the office hours that we recorded last week or the week before that and the ones to come, you can actually play with Apex 22.2 on apex.oracle.com right now today and play with all those features and experiment with how your apps would work in that environment. So we're very excited to offer that. The apex.oracle.com homepage has been updated. Please take a few moments to take a look at some of the new layouts and some of the new information that's available there. A lot of it's geared towards the new release of Apex 22.2 that's coming out soon, later this year, hopefully before the end of the year. And what's new in Apex 22.2, there's a big section here talking about some of the features in detail above and beyond what's going to be demonstrated today. Last time we did office hours, Mark went through a whole bunch of these new features in detail. And I tell you, it's really exciting. I can't wait to have some of these features in my apps personally. So I'm sure you're going to be excited as well to see these features available in your apps. So try it out on apex.oracle.com as soon as possible. Get involved, try it out. Apex in Oracle Cloud, there's a new section there on apex.oracle.com talking a little bit more about what's available there. And also, you know, it's all about the community. The Apex community is back from COVID, and we're growing and engaging. The past events this past year, there's been many of them. We just finished Cloud World last week. I was there personally with Mark and a few members of the team, and we had a great time. We met so many people that were so interested in Apex and wanted to learn more about it. And we just spent all day at the demo kiosk on the demo grounds there in Caesars Forum next to the Venetian in Las Vegas. And we talked to people all day long, met some good people at night and in the evenings, and we explained all the different things that are coming with Apex, and just communicated with them how it's an exciting time to be an Apex developer. MOUS in Michigan is this week, and the UK Oracle Users Group meeting is our conference is in December, so that's coming up as well. So in Cloud World, or at Cloud World last week, Mike Hitchwa tweeted this exact message. Please scan the QR code with your mobile device and visit this Twitter tweet, if you will. But Larry Ellison was on stage talking live during the keynote, and he discussed about Apex and the success with vSafe, working with the Center for Disease Control and the Oxford GPAS system. It was all live streamed, and quite literally, Larry Ellison bragged about how awesome Apex is, and we were very excited to share that with you if you hadn't seen it. There are recordings of those keynotes, and I highly recommend that if you are a stakeholder in Apex or anything doing with Oracle in general, watch those keynotes. All our executives had a lot of good information to share, and of course, they're always very entertaining. In Apex news, we just released and announced the Apex Application Development Life Cycle Technical Paper, bit of a mouthful. The paper provides guidance for both small and large teams on how they can deliver Apex apps updates to their users on a regular cadence. So this is just very exciting. It's been a long time coming. This is an updated, latest and greatest technical paper with a lot of how-to and steps of how to actually make this happen for your teams. Again, that QR code links you right to the blog post. I encourage you to take a look and see what we've been able to deliver there. And in fact, I just delivered content in a presentation yesterday based on this technical paper, and it was very well received. And everyone was very excited to hear how you can actually do CI/CD and other kinds of different lifecycle management with Apex. Of course, you're going to use some other tools, but just knowing that there's guidance there and documentation makes it that much more interesting and exciting that we're able to offer. So today we're going to be talking about Apex 22.2 Marquee features. Previously, Mark covered the sneak preview of what's new, but today it's going to be a little bit more of a feature deep dive. We have some special guests that are going to be presenting that information. Upcoming on November 3rd, we're going to have new items and regions, and on November 10th, PWA user and developer experience. Just so you know, if you didn't catch it last time, now available is the Oracle Apex Foundations Learning Path. So you can learn the fundamentals of low-code app dev with Oracle Apex, or you can share the Foundations content with anyone on your team or people that you may know that are interested in learning more about Apex, with perhaps the goal of becoming certified. Right now, there's 3.5 hours of expert training available by the Apex product development team. So you can enroll and learn for free today on Oracle University. Give that a few moments of your time, check it out. If you want to spend the 3.5 hours and learn more about it in great detail, I'm sure you'll be impressed with the content. Coming soon, there will be availability on LinkedIn and Coursera and Udemy. And of course, we're going to be having and making available updated certification. We're still working on the Apex on Autonomous Database blog series. There's a lot of content out there that's being published, but there's a long list of what we've currently published for vanity URLs, announcing Oracle Apex 22.1 upgrade, all these different things you see on the left side. But coming soon is what's really exciting, where we're going to have other blogs about making your Apex app highly available on ADB, scaling your Apex app, and more. Just a FYI that we had the patch set bundle release for Oracle Apex 22.1 PSE version 6. That was updated on October 10th, just a little while ago. So if you're not familiar with that and you have an on-prem installation, that's something you might want to be aware of. There is a known issues link there at the bottom. So today, I'm proud to announce that Ananya and Carsten and Patrick are here to talk individually about the respective marquee features of Apex 22.2. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ananya, who's going to start off with her features.
Hi, everyone. As everybody knows, in the 22.1, we released approval component as part of Apex, with which you can develop applications which allow you to approve and reject tasks as part of your application. And with 22.2, we have come up with a new set of enhancements to the approvals component, which allows some additional operations that you can perform with the tasks, as well as certain handling of the due date feature of the task. And in the interest of time, I will go directly to the demo. There will be no presentations today. So here I have with me an application, which is a very simple application, which allows a user to request for a new laptop on behalf of another user. And as we all know from our previous release, that at the core of any application which involves approvals is something called the task definitions, which is a shared component. I will walk you through this task definition, which is called the laptop request, and show you what are the new things that we have added as part of the task definition. So we all know that we have some core concepts like participants, which involves the potential owner who can approve or reject the task. And we have something called the business administrator for admin-based operations. We also have parameters that you can pass, which can be used at runtime to show the details of the task when the user wants to approve or reject it. And we have actions that can be defined on the task. So what is the new thing that we have added here? We have added a new section called the deadline. And this allows you to use the due date effectively when you can decide what you want to do with the task once the due date for the task has elapsed. There is another thing that we added here called the due on type, which was initially in 22.1 always a type of interval. We are allowing and supporting different formats now, which you can see here. You can have SQL queries, function bodies, expressions returning a valid timestamp that can be, tied to the task. And once the due date has elapsed, there are several expiration policies that we have in place, which you can apply to the task. So by default, in the previous 22.1, we did not have any expiration policy that could be configured to a task definition. But right now we have two additional expiration policies. One is called expire, the other is called renew. What these mean is that when the task due date has elapsed, what do we want to do with the task? The default behavior is still none, which means that the task remains overdue and still can be acted on by the approver or of the task. But if we set the expiration policy as expired, then at the end of the due date, once it has elapsed, the task will automatically go to another state called expired, and there is pretty much nothing the approver can do with the task. However, the business administrator of the task has an additional power to renew the task, and that this is something only the business administrator can do. The other expiration policy is renew, and when you choose it as renew, you also have a maximum renewal count. This is something that allows you to auto-renew a task once the due date has elapsed. And with the maximum renewal count, you can specify the maximum number of times this auto-renewal can happen. At the end of the maximum renewal count, once it is reached, the task goes to the expired state, and then it can be only manually renewed by the business administrator, which is similar to the behavior you see with expired. So these are the different things that we can do with the deadlines of the task. Let me show you now what we have added with the task definition actions. So with the deadline feature coming in, we introduced actions that could be performed on two different new events. This is the before expire and the expire event. Let me show you the before expire event before the others. So there can be use cases where when the task is about to get expired or the due date is reaching maybe 12 hours before, you need something approved. You would want an email, a reminder email to be sent to the approver if he has not already acted on the task. So those kind of facilities are available with the before expired event. And when you choose the event as before expired, you can specify the interval. In this case, in the interest of time, we have kept the before expire interval as 2 minutes, which means that 2 minutes before the task due date is approaching, the action is going to be performed. And in this case, the action to be performed is that we just write to a log table that it is going to be expired in 2 minutes. We can also have a different kind of scenario where we can send emails to the approver to remind him that the task is about to expire. This is there is another thing that we have added here in this action settings. It is called the log messages when. So this was also missing in 22.1. So we want, if we want the action messages whenever the action is executed successfully, or if this action has failed, if we want the message to be logged in the task history itself, we can do that by this setting. By default, the setting is none, which means that the message that is mentioned here in the error handling section or the success message associated with this task definition action will not be logged in the task history. However, if we choose it as success, then only successful messages will be logged. If we choose it as failure, then error messages will be logged. And if we choose it as all, then all messages, both successful as well as error messages, will get logged for this particular task definition action. Why we do this is because we do not, sometimes the user might not want to, have a very, very thick and heavy task history list with all the messages. He might only want to see error messages. So this is how we can give that kind of facility and flexibility to the user. Let me go back to the task definition and show you the expire action. Similarly, we have, as I mentioned, like the before expire, we have an on event expire also. So that once the task has expired and the due date has elapsed, you might want to, update a system of records to say that, nothing can be done with this requisition or with this, travel request or leave request, whatever your application is. You cannot do anything further with it, and you can send a formal email for that. So this is what you can do on the on event expired. So far, we have been talking about the deadlines feature. In addition to that, we also added some new operations that could be performed. And these are the request information and submit information, which I will be showing you through the demo. So to run the demo, let me log into this laptop request application as Jane, who is one of the users of this application. So here Jane is requesting a new laptop for Martin, and the laptop type is MacBook Pro, and he's submitting a new laptop request. So once this request has been sent, the potential owner for this task definition is Jimmy, and I log back in as Jimmy to approve this task. So far in the task list, you would be able to only approve or reject this kind of tasks. So this is the latest one. Let me sort this by the created date. So this is what you see now. So it could very well happen that Jimmy does not want to immediately approve it. He needs further information from the initiator of the task, which is Jane. And with this new operation that we have introduced called request information, you can request additional information for this request before you go ahead and approve it. So let Jimmy ask that question. How old is the previous laptop or something like that? Once the information is requested, it disappears from the task list of Jimmy, and he can no longer work on this task until and unless Jane goes and provides the information requested. So with that, we have introduced a new state, and you will see that in the initiated tasks for Jane, you will see this a new state called information requested. And this also allows you to search by information requested as a state. So if you search by it, you will find that there is only one coming in. So now if you open this, if Jane opens this, Jane sees something called submit information, and the information requested is already appearing as a comment here by Jimmy, which Jane can respond to now by pressing the submit information button. And she mentions that it is 4 years old and submits this information. So now Jane is already submitted that information and Jimmy can act on it. But let me, as the business admin, also enter this as Esmin, who's the business admin for this. And let's see what he is saying. He's saying that this task is there, and it's only 109 seconds from now that it is due. So as we know that the before expire was supposed to happen 2 minutes before. So the task should, the before expire action should get fired. For these actions to get fired, we have a job that runs every 1 hour, because in real life scenarios, you don't have due dates coming in 4 minutes or 2 minutes. To simulate that, we have a public API, which I will show shortly, which allows you to do the same thing that the job does. That is, it looks for all tasks that are about to expire or that have expired already, which means that their due date has elapsed. And this button click will do the same thing. So we see that this there was a button click that happened, and we see that it is about to expire in 2 minutes. And we will, if I now go back to this admin task and check this particular request, the history should show me basically that the before expire event had fired. So this is what we see here. The before expire event has fired for this. And let me go back to the task definition and show you how I achieved this basically. So first of all, let me go to the laptop request and show you the task definition action for the on request information, which I did not show you earlier. So on request information, similar to the request information and submit information, you have events for these and you have actions that you can define for this. Here I have an action called add to history. So this is another new API that we have introduced called apex_approval.add to history, which allows the user to add custom messages to the task history. This is very useful for any kind of logging experience the user wants. So this gets added to the history at the time the action is performed. So this information requested from apex$task_owner is a substitution string that we can use here to get the current owner of the task. And this information gets logged in the task history, which you should be able to see here. So this is what you see here, the information requested from Jane. This is coming from this task definition action that got performed when the information was requested. Let me now show you the expired task button that I had hit earlier to simulate the behavior of what the expired job already does for us at every 1 hour. So this is the expired task that you see here, and we have a dynamic action associated with it. And this is the API that is introduced by us. It's a public API that is for the benefit of anybody wanting to test or demo this kind of behavior and does not want to wait for an hour to pass before the job is automatically triggered. So we have this API called handle_task_deadlines, which performs the same action. That is, it looks for all the tasks whose due date have elapsed and performs the necessary actions for them. So now let me go back to this and see that it was due 67 seconds ago, but you see that the task status is still open. It's not expired. So let me go back to this test page and call this button again to simulate this behavior, and we see that the task expire action was fired for this. This is, and now as the admin of the task, I will see that this task has now expired. And only as the admin of this task, I will be able to renew the task. So let me go ahead and hit the renew task. So as I have renewed the task, I'll close this, and I will see that a fresh task got created with the same settings as the original task. And when I open the fresh task, I see two additional, checkboxes for me called the include comments from the expired tasks, which means that the task, which was the original task for which this got renewed, you can see the comments from them. And this is exactly what we had typed in earlier as Jimmy and Jane, respectively, requesting and submitting the information. So this is from the original task for which this renewal happened. And you can see this by checking on the checkbox. Similar to this, the history here just shows that the task was created, but you have already lost the history of the expired task, but you can see the history of the expired task by clicking on this checkbox, which tells you all the things that happened, all the stuff that happened with the task that got expired already. So you see that the information was requested, you see that information was submitted, you see there was a before expire event that fired, and you saw that the task expired and a renewal happened, and it was done by the business admin, and a new task was created on behalf of the initiator, who was Jane. And now Jimmy can go ahead and, approve this task because its due date is still valid. So let me just, for the sake of completion, log in as Jimmy. And I go to task list and I can just go and approve this task. And the task is gone now. I'll quickly show there is one other new thing that we did. It's a brief feature that we introduced, but it is a very useful feature, especially for complicated task definitions. We have introduced a copy functionality with which you can copy an existing task definition, either from the current application or from another application. For example, if you have sample approvals here, you can copy the task definition from there, and you can give a new name to it. Can copy the task definition here. And in the new task definition that got copied, you do have to generate it. It carries over all the information from the existing task definition. All you need to do is generate the task details page for it, and then you are all set to go. So with this, I complete the demonstration of all the new enhancements that I have performed. I would request all of you to try it and come back with feedback, and also request you to go through the blogs that have been written on the approvals component for 22.1. We have 3 blogs that have been written already. I would appreciate your feedback on that as well. Thank you all.
That was great, Ananya. Thank you so much. All right, Carsten, you ready? You're up next.
Yeah, so I would like to introduce you to another new component we are adding for Apex 22.2, and we call that application search. And before demoing it, I would like to introduce it roughly with a few words. So the idea is to allow you guys to add search functionality to your applications. So we are not talking about searching within the application builder, which is already there. We are talking about adding search functionality to your very applications, right? And to be honest, that's something you could have done in the past as well. Right. So if you're very familiar with SQL, maybe even functionality like Oracle Text, and with Apex, of course, then you can craft search pages on your own, right? All you have to do is offer a query on your customers table, with a SQL where clause. Then, you want to add product searches also. No, easy. Let's do a union all. And let's also bring in the orders, another union all. And the query doesn't work like that. I didn't match the column names up and the data types. So you need to tweak these things. And so, yeah, you can do it on your own. But as soon as you add searches in, as you want to decide how to display this, things become convoluted, right? And we would like to make that easy for you guys. So have the Apex experience, if you will, of search in your application. So we are talking about a new declarative component, which allows you to add search to your application. So, and I've created an empty application stub here, and that allows me to walk you through a few of the new components. So the first thing is we typically don't want to search in just a table, right? Typically you have multiple tables to search in. Sometimes you have SQL queries. And in Apex, we have external data sources. We have REST data sources. We have REST-enabled SQL. And searchable data can come from everywhere. So the first idea is to abstract things, right? We pulled off the search data source from the actual visualization. And for that reason, you will find a new component in Share Components, and that is called Search Configuration. And let's have a look into that. Nothing is here right now. Let's create a new one, right? And we have in 22.2, we plan to go out with 3 types of search configurations. Standard is even pretty much the most powerful one because our normal data source infrastructure is behind that. So all the data sources you can use for a report or chart can be used in the standard part as well. We have a separate option for Oracle text, and you can also search in Apex lists, right? So Apex lists are useful, of course, if you want to include navigational info for your application into the search also. And I would do a quick demo to show you how to hook up a plain table in your schema with that, right? So I'm now creating a search configuration based on some, no, it's not projects. It's, I have a test table here. It's actually, I installed the sample from the sample data, I installed the test spreadsheet, right? Which is good enough for a quick demo. So let's have a look. Right, here is our test spreadsheet. So, and after picking the table, we have to map a few columns. So at the end of the day, this is about presenting results from several search data sources. Well, so we have to normalize the result set somehow. So we have, we start with a primary key column, a title column, a description column. So let me use the project as the description and the task name as the title. We can go with a nice icon, right? So let's take that one. And let's create the search configuration. All right, so here I'm on the edit page then, and here a lot of stuff can be configured, right? So we can configure the searchable columns. We might want to add a where clause. So these attributes are known from Page Designer when you create an interactive report. It's pretty much the same, right? So then we have a column mapping, right? And there are more than just a title, subtitle, and description. We have a custom column 1, 2, and 3. This will be hooked up in the layout template later on. There is something like a badge. So let's take the cost as the badge. There is a score column, which you can use to rank stuff, a last modified column. And also we have some options to configure the icon. Right now I'm going with the icon class. We can, if we don't like the standard layout, we can control that, but I think we should first have a look into how the standard looks like. And we can configure links and authorizations and other stuff, right? So let me save that. Of course, we can't walk through all of these attributes in details. That's something for you guys to simply try out, play with this, right? But before creating some UI for this, let me create another search configuration, which I think is pretty cool. And that's when we talk about REST data sources. I prepared 2 of them already. One is the movie database, which we used quite a few times when doing demos. And I would like to draw your attention to one specific part of a search configuration, right? And a search configuration has parameters. So the movie database has that query URL parameter. And that REST API is a search as well, right? So you can craft a URL, and that URL is a parameter, a query parameter. And if you append Star Trek to that URL, that REST API returns Star Trek movies. If you're appending Harry Potter, you will get Harry Potter movies. So actually pretty cool. It looks like we could use that. And here is something we have in REST data sources for quite a while now. The parameter has that use for row search attribute, and you can toggle that for your REST data sources. And if you want to search on REST, this is very important for the feature we are talking here. So if your REST API has such a parameter which implements that search thing, you could hook it up as the use for row search. That's all you have to do, right? So I did that already. And let me now, as that is already done, let me create another search configuration, right? Based on that very REST data source. So I have movies, right? And now I'm picking a REST data source, pick my movie DB. And then here I have to do the color mapping myself. Actually, this is pretty easy. So we have even a nice icon for that. Let me create it. So again, here's the edit page. I think we don't need to walk through that in detail. So now I have created 2 search configurations. Time to add some UI. And let me create a new page. And this is the new page type you will see in Apex 22.2. And this is a search page. My search. And here the wizard asked me, oh, what do you want to search within? Both, of course. So, and here's now what Page Designer created for us. This is the region, right? The search widget, if you will. It has the search configuration, so we can even shift stuff around, right? But let's go with that for now. We have a text field to search within. And as you can see, it's a normal plain text field. So if you have a cool item type plugin for that, or you would like to work with something else, a select list with predefined search terms, go ahead, right? It's total flexibility. You can use whatever icon you like. Okay, and also you can style this however you like to style your input item. There is one thing I like to adjust as I'm searching within a REST API. Maybe search as you type isn't the best thing to use here, right? Because it would reach out to the REST API over and over again. I'm using a free API key here. And if I did that, probably they will lock me out after 5 minutes. So let me turn search as you type off. So, and this is what we get. So, and this is our search page. And let me now search for server, right? And here we see data from the movie database, right? And if we scroll down a bit, this is the icon I have configured for my movie database, and it's all standard. Then we see the icon switches here. And here is my, my task table, right? Also with the badge. So we are searching among two different searches, two sources, right? We are even searching in a REST API as well as in a local table, and stuff is just put together for us. We can also, and this is the default behavior you have seen. So by default, we are getting the results in order, in the same order we have configured here. So movie results come first, and then we see tasks. Oh, you don't like that? You would like to have them ordered by title or by last modified. Then you can define an overall sort. So let me now have the overall sort by title. And let me search for server again. And now I see here my movies right in between my my tasks, right? Because I now have sorted everything by its title, right? So this is the very rough and very basic way how to get started with that feature. Of course, this is not everything, right? And to show you what you can do with these pages, I created another application in advance, which has a bit more. And I would like to show you a few results, how searches could look like, right? Just as a few ideas where you could look into. So first, I have the same REST data sources here. What we will see now is I also hooked up Google. So you can build these, your custom search engines in Google, and you just need an API key. And then it works pretty much similar to that MovieDB. You can just craft a URL, passing in the ID of your custom search engine, which you configured on a Google page before, then the API key, and then the search term, right? And you get a JSON document back with results. Perfect is what we want. And the MovieDB, you have seen that. And here I created 5 search configurations, right? So I created the one for Google, I created the movie database, and I tweaked the movie database a bit more. We will see that in a minute. The task spreadsheet, we've seen that also. And I also hooked up Oracle text. That's something we will also see what that means, right? So if we have a look here, then we can see this is a dedicated Oracle text type. Data source choices are a bit limited, but we can leverage all the functionality of Oracle text here, right? So the fuzzy search, the linguistic capabilities, and even the capability of Oracle text to search on one table and to search on data from several tables, right? The only thing is the text index has to come from you guys, right? Apex doesn't create that for you. Might change in the future, but for 22.2, you have to provide the text index. And again, the column mapping and other stuff. So let's have a look at the page. No, that's not the page. So here is my search page. Okay, and here we can see I have the search, my search region. I have my four search sources. And a few attributes. It's pretty much the same. So just this thing is new. And that is also what we had, right? So let's run that page. So, and now let's search for again, server, right? And now we can see these come from my tasks. So, and we have a lot of tasks. So server is not the best one we get. So here it changes, right? We are getting people results. And here we can see, oh, you know what? Let's use this one, which I created. And every search configuration has a server-side condition. So we can turn on or turn off search sources. So let's see what we get, right? And let's now search for server again. And here are our movies, right? So we have a picture, we have a description, a vote, right, and a description, right? So let's now search for the Oracle documentation on Google with my custom search engine. There we are. So this comes from Google, right? So we could now search for what I like to do, or regex replace. Let's search for some technical term, right? And here we get some links pointing to a Google result, right? So we have Google results among our people table, right? Well, I'm pretty sure we won't find anything in our people table, but we can search for Gustav Eichel. And even as this is Oracle text, we are able to get in similarity search also. And let's now bring in the movies again. Right, and here is the Oracle text along with the movie results. And we can also see pictures from the REST API or from your table are also supported. The layout is maybe not that nice. I should have done a better work on the layout, but I think Shakib would make that crisp in no time. But we can even do a bit more. So if we now what we're thinking about, I would like to tweak that layout a bit. So then we can start going to the attributes again. And here is a switch called custom layout. And if we don't like the standard layout template, you can provide a row template on your own, right? And I did that on the following page. And this is just a tiny tweak which I applied here. So here you can see I have I added another template, which is more or less the default template. I just added a target blank so that the link opens on a new tab, and I don't have to take care on that. All right, so this is if I go to Eiffel again, then we can see the detail link opens to another tab. Right, it's really just playing with the HTML. All right. Start quick example. Let's see whether we get some people for that. No, we don't, right? This layout looks a bit better. So something is not right with the one from my first page. Okay, let's now have another one. And here I went a bit crazy with the layout. And this is something, so let me first really to show you that you can. So what you will now see is not a recommendation how to build your layout templates. It's just to show you what you can do, right? So it's really totally on your own, right? You can apply every markup you want, every template you want, every layout you like for your search results. And there is some other interesting bit here. So you can see I didn't type anything, but I see 3 results. Hey, what's that? So the idea here is we are building searches for enterprise applications. And of course, if I'm searching for something, I get results, right? However, and you can see I have different coloring for the different sources. But so think about an enterprise application where you search again with the customers, orders, products, bills, right? But if you didn't type in anything, you might say, oh, but as a starter, I would like to see the top most important information, right? And that is something you can have, right? So here is something we called initial result. And that is another search configuration. And it uses that use as initial result switch over here, right? So what does that mean? If that switch is enabled, that search configuration will be executed without a query, and it will be displayed as long as you didn't type in a query. As soon as you type in a query, that won't be displayed anymore, right? And you will see the other results, which are only displayed if there is an actual query, right? You can also have another search configuration, again, with the switch enabled. And the idea here is simply to craft your very query. What do you want to show as the default? Top 5 projects based on budget, based on cost, top 5 customers based on complaints, based on deals. We don't know, right? So it's up to you. Craft your SQL query as you would like to have it, right? Put it here as the initial, add it as a search configuration and flip the use as initial result switch. And then you will get your, in that case, top 3 projects as the initial result. And as soon as I'm typing in some search, I will get my results, right? Which are now no initial results anymore. This is now what I was actually searching for, right? So you can see a lot of stuff to explore, and I didn't even talk about all the very details, and time is also advancing. So a few things just as a reminder. So when I open that configure sources here, so that says we are searching in all the sources. But besides that, there is even that prefix here. And that is something I have configured within the search configuration. So the movie source has a prefix. So I want to search for migrate servers only within movies. Nothing found on Google. Maybe I didn't have the right nothing found text here. And so let me have a look. So here, so we probably have in the movies. Let's have a look into that later. But that is the nice thing here. Or it can have people, server, and now it's searching for server only within the people tag, within the people source, and not within all the other sources. So there is 2 ways of determining where a search should be performed. You can build something based on server-side condition with a page item, like I did here. But you can also, for the power user, you can also enable these prefixes, right? And the prefixes are actually configured within the search configuration itself. So here is the movies source, and here is my search query prefix, right? So I think that concludes my demo. I hope I got the story over. So the basic idea is to allow you guys to configure these search configurations, which are, so to say, an abstraction to the data. And within, on a page on the search widget, you are just using these sources. And you can have several widgets on several pages and work with any combination of search sources you would like to use. And thanks for your attention. That's pretty much all I have.
I will talk about Invoke API, which is another new feature in Apex 22.2. From the beginning, Apex always supported that you can write custom PL SQL code, that you put in snippets of PL SQL code in your application just to make it custom. But it's not always necessary to write a lot of JavaScript code. Very often, it's really just calling a database package, a function or a procedure in a package, or a stored procedure. And it's actually not necessary to write all that in your PL SQL snippets. And that's what we wanted to improve in 22.2 to make Apex a little bit more low code, but also for the power users who are mostly moving all their PL SQL logic into packages to make it also more productive for them, to not having to remember all the arguments of the procedure and mapping it to page items. We will make that just easier. And actually, we are making use of it if you create a new application, we will immediately make use of it. So if you have a look in a newly created application onto the login page, for example, you will immediately find that in the processes, there is a new process type called Invoke API. And for the set username cookie and the login process type, we actually already making use of that new process type. And if we have a look, so if you compare it to your version you're currently using with Apex 22.2, you would have here a process type called execute code, and it would have this snippet to call one of our documented APIs to perform the login. If you have a look at the documentation, you will see it's a rather straightforward API to call Apex authentication.login. You're passing in a username, you're passing in a password, and that has been added in 22.1. You can also pass in if persistent authentication should be used. So if you create a new application, you will now see that we are not using PL SQL code anymore, instead this declarative feature. And instead of having that snippet, you see all the arguments of that API. We see the P username again, we see the password, we see the set persistent authentication. And we also see, if we have a look at the property editor, all the information what we see in the documentation. If we go back again, username, indirection, data type, default values, that's all available in Page Designer that you immediately see. Do you have to pass something in? Is it something you're getting back? What data type is expected? And that's also a very important point for this feature. It's really data type aware. So it supports varchar, CLOP, number, integer, Boolean, and all those PL SQL data types natively. It's not like with Apex session state where everything is a string, a varchar. Here, it's really mapping. You're getting the real data types. So if you pass in a date, for example, we will do all the necessary mapping for that. And I will go into details a little bit later on. Besides that information for defining how that argument, this parameter actually looks like, you can, as a developer, also specify how do you want to populate it when it's going to be called. That's the value type. And we provide here quite a number of options. As you already used to from other components within Apex, the most straightforward one is you're passing in the value of an item, as I do here with the username field item. But you could also pass in a static value, for example, or you go into, you provide a SQL statement to return you the result. It could also be a PL SQL expression or function, or if you're on a database 21C or a 23C, you could also write MLE JavaScript code, for example. Or if it's a default value, here in that case it isn't, you could also just say skip that parameter. You use whatever is defined in the specification of that package, or you intentionally want to pass in a null value, for example. But let's go back what we have with the item. And if we have a look at one of the other arguments, which was actually a Boolean, we did also go as far as that we want to make the experience for this mapping and using the different data types as simple as possible. So depending on the data type, you will also see that the types will change here. Sometimes you see more or less options. And you will also see that depending on the data type, you're getting some extra arguments. Like here in the case of Boolean, I do also get some 2 additional fields where I could specify what's the actual value of the page item, which should be mapped to a Boolean true and a Boolean false value. In this case, I don't actually have to specify anything because Apex is smart enough to actually read that out of your page item configuration. Because here in this case, this page item is a checkbox, or in the case if it's a switch, we know it's a yes/no kind of decision, and we use the default value specified for this checkbox type. Or if you have custom ones, and you have specified here, like in German, we would just use that information to convert that current value into a Boolean. And let's have a quick look if I actually run this application, how this actually looks like, so that you also get the necessary information in the case if something fails, if you get an error as a developer, that you can find out why it's actually failing. And if you switch the application into debug mode, let's go just with info, for example, and I'm logging in here. And let's have a look at the debug output so that you get the information that it's basically this feature is really just a simple wrapper for you to just make it a little bit easier to call packages in the database. And if we have a look at our accept login debug output, we will find out that the debug output for this set username cookie and also for the login is rather straightforward. We are using all the different arguments. We are evaluating, for example, in the case of set username cookie, we have a PL SQL expression. We execute that. If something fails, you would see it here. Also the mapping to a Boolean data type. Here, it's not rocket science. It's rather straightforward for you to understand if a conversion fails, why it's failing, for example. That's the code we are automatically generating to actually invoke that database package function or procedure. In the end, if you run in debug mode, you will get all kind of debug information to help you in the case if something goes wrong. So this was a really super simple use case. Let's go into how you would actually use it in your own application and what are use cases for it, for example. I have a super simple example based on the employees table. And what I would like to add here is a process, a server-side process. If I hit the increase salary, my salary is actually increased by 10%, which would be great. So if I go to this page and go to the processes, really simple to create a new Invoke API process. You give it a name. You pick the new type Invoke API. And as I said, you can call a procedure or function in a package, but you could also call a procedure or a function a standalone function in the database. But mostly, I would encourage that you put your backend logic into packages. Out of the box, you will get all the packages in your schema. But you can also, as you have seen with the Apex authentication package, all the APIs, public APIs, which are available from Apex, but also the same from the database. If you find a useful example API you want to call, there is no limit. So as long as it's public, you can call it. Otherwise, it has to be in your parsing schema. So I have a simple package here, which is called increase salary. And if we have a look at this package in object browser, as you can see, very simple, just has two arguments, p empno, p percentage, and is doing a simple update. What you can also see is, by just picking this procedure in Page Designer, we try to be smart. So if the argument, this parameter of this API has a similar name, or actually a name which matches to a page item on that page. And then if you have a look, our page items are called here p3_empno. We will skip the p3, but if we find something matching, we'll automatically map it to a page item, which you will see later on if you show you another example, which is super cool if you create those kind of APIs where you do all your insert, update, delete in packages, and you have to map it to your page items. And in this case, we just want to specify a hard-coded value, in this case 1.1 for the multiplication. And we should also set a server-side condition so that the process is not always executed, only in the case if I hit increase salary. And if I open up that page again, and as you can see, I have a salary increase of 10%, which is great. Super simple, straightforward use case. Another use case, which is more likely for those, as I said, even for pro developers, you're having this kind of approach that you create packages which are containing all the business logic of your table, insert, update, delete. And instead of using our DML processes, you actually have a package procedure which is doing, let's say, for example, the update. And again, I pick the Invoke API, pick my package, what I have, and I have here an update employee. We'll just delete the original process. As you can see, all the arguments, because they're following these naming patterns, are immediately mapped to page items. And if I save that and run it, it will immediately work, but based on the package instead of the DML process. Really straightforward to use. If you're extending your package, let's say I'm adding here a new parameter called picture. In this case, it's a Boolean. It's also very straightforward to use. So if you or another developer adds new parameters or removes parameters from an API, I'm not updating my update statement here. If you go into Page Designer, you can do a right mouse click on the parameters and either say synchronize parameters, or you could manually add that new parameter. And I'm just lazy. I'm just doing a synchronize. In this case, there is no page item, which is called P3 picture. That's why it's not defaulted, but it actually was a Boolean. Did I add Boolean? Should be a blob, which is much more likely. With a Boolean, we can't really store that much of a picture. And as you see, synchronize even updates the data type. So if the data types changes, that's also working. And the interesting thing now with the Boolean data type is it doesn't make sense to map it to a page item or a static value. As you can see, value types are now restricted to a limited set of useful options. In this case, I could provide a SQL statement, what you would normally do if you have a file browse item type. You would select from this Apex application temp files table and just select it from there. And Apex would pass in this blob into this parameters. Very straightforward to do. And as a last thing, I also want to show you that we even support more complex data types. So what I have showed you so far are the standard PL SQL types, but sometimes you have more complex APIs. And we even cover that with this feature. And I've provided a sample for that. Just go with the Invoke API again, our MDML. And if we have a look at this package or this procedure in the actual source code, we can see that it passes in-out parameters. So we even support out parameters or in-out parameters, or sometimes even out, which you want to ignore, and also PL SQL record types. And if you have a quick look at the PL SQL record type, super simple one. And again, as I said, depending on the data type, here it's custom. With custom PL SQL types, we can't really provide any other assignment values than actually that you populate them with a PL SQL expression or a PL SQL function, because doesn't make sense to map it to a page item. And that's why it's limited again here from the scope. In addition, and I want to show it with the string, depending on the direction of the parameter, you can specify if you're actually interested in the output. Do you care about if the value is modified? Or sometimes if you have a function, for example, do you care about the result? You just want to insert and you're not interested in the return primary key, for example. You can configure that and say, ignore the output. And in that case, if you're not ignoring it, you can only map it to a page item. But if you say ignore the output, you can again specify the different types populated with a static value, which would normally not be possible in PL SQL. But with this declarative approach, it's actually possible. You can pass in a static value and the result will actually be ignored. So many opportunities to actually explore how this looks like and how this can be used. And I think especially for those use cases where it's really just calling that API, I think you're really good to go with Invoke API. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Patrick. That's been great. I mean, this is really just the tip of the iceberg of what all these new features are coming with the new release of Apex 22.2. We really cannot wait to see what you do with it, everyone. Hope you have an opportunity to experiment on apex.oracle.com and play with the new release there before it's generally available. Just a reminder that today was the marquee features available in Apex 22.2, and next week we're going to be looking at new items and regions on November 3rd, and then November 10th, PWA user and developer experience new features. So we hope to see you then. Please come on back, and I hope you enjoyed this session today on October 27th, 2022. Thanks to all our presenters, and we'll see you all next time.